So we just watched the long-awaited remake, 30 years since the original release of The Crow.
It's like the rumor you hear like all through high school. It's like, Brandon Lee died on the set of The Crow, and everyone's like, what's The Crow?
Yeah, it's like, I remember because I went for a martial art phase, obviously. I watched like the 4 Bruce Lee films that there are.
I didn't know it was his son.
You didn't know until when?
Today.
Are you fucking joking?
I Googled it and it went, Dad Bruce Lee. And I went,
You didn't know
way.
that was fucking Bruce Lee's boy? Mm-mm. My dad would go, his son was in a film and he died on the set of that film. I was like, what was that? And he goes, I'll get it for you. Then one day I woke up and found the fucking DVD of The Crow just standing on my bedside. I was like, fucking hell. And I watched it, and obviously being an impressionable 14-year-old was fucking blown away by it.
You walked to school, you had the X tape on your hands and the tight Hot Topic shirt, and you're like, don't talk to me.
But that's it. It's like everyone has that like Crow, like, this is fucking cool.
He's the original angsty teen.
I mean, he's just got such a fucking cool look about him in that film. But James R. Barr, the guy who wrote it, has like kind of built a whole franchise off of this. And obviously the original film had various sequels of declining quality. Mm-hmm. And really it only seems that the original film, for various reasons, the only one that's remembered or loved. In a rather tragic coincidence, Heath Ledger was somewhat inspired by Brandon's performance. And when you watch the scene in which he enters the criminal room and sits at the end of the table, it's quite reminiscent of Heath. And, they both died at 28 before their film that garnered them the most praise was released. And I think for Brandon, it was touching on him, which thankfully this current film, does not do at all. Mm-hmm. I was petrified there was going to be some kind of nod and a wink to Brandon. So
I was scared we were going to see like Brandon's face deep faked on someone in like the spirit world or something.
The Wachowskis said that they were in those early years. We're looking at Brandon Lee as basically a potential Neo, and given he's the same age as Keanu, there's a world in which Brandon basically had Keanu Reeves' career. You could see him in The Matrix, and you can see him as John Wick.
He was like the next action hero. He was the next rising action hero, but he could also act.
But this was his film where he was actually showing like, hey, I've got some chops here, where his dad used the movies as a way to propel his martial arts.
Did you ever watch Big Trouble in Little Tokyo? They're the head of the anti-Yakuza task force of LA.
Hilarious.
Or something like that. It's really good. Great. It's actually really good. And he has this great line in it where he sees Dolph Lundgren naked and he goes, if we die, I just want you to know you got the most beautiful cock I've ever seen. Or something along that, like, you got the biggest cock I've ever seen.
I mean, you can see that potential of a really charismatic lead actor that he probably most certainly would have been. But, such is life. Anyway, after a series of failed reboot attempts with Jason Momoa, and like there was a Bradley Cooper one, and it's like a history of like cursed like sequels and potential reboots lost in like development hell. Quietly, Rupert Sanders, Bill Skarsgard, and FK Twigs filmed this in Europe, and here it is.
Why didn't the ghost of Brandon Lee destroy this movie as well?
Yeah. Right. The best thing I can say about the film is they don't invoke Brandon at all. I was petrified in his friend's apartment. I noticed there was like samurai movie.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely petrified there'd be a poster of one of Brandon's older films. Mm-hmm. And when he looks in the mirror, he looks over at the poster. Like I saw it in my head. And
I was like, expecting
fuck,
like
don't do this.
A Devil May Cry remake of a big mop kind of wig and him going, not a chance. And like just taking it off.
This reminded me a lot of that DMC reboot of like even down to the hair and the forced kind of angst. Well, I would actually say Bill Skarsgård had nothing to him, and I'm not sure if it's just him. I mean, sounds like he's not particularly happy with. I've seen comments that he wasn't happy with the tattoos, wasn't happy with the ending.
He does kind of look like Little Peep. If you've seen Little Peep, the rapper, like covered in tattoos, and he has that big subscribe button tattooed on his forehead.
Yeah, I'm sure they just didn't have damaged. Like they might as well went all the way and just had damaged on it, right? The only trailer released for this film, they never released like another trailer other than its original. They had a like Machine Gun Kelly, and I'm like, yay, they've kind of Machine Gun Kelly them a bit.
Yeah.
Which when you compare it to the original film, which is kind of dripped in that 90s grunge that kind of echoes throughout the characters, the world, the atmosphere.
Yeah, they felt the need to try and create that character again, but they did a lot more work, but the character turned out like such a lesser version.
Yeah, we have more time with this Eric as Eric and Shelley as Shelley, but yet we know less of them.
The original movie just does such a good job of like through flashbacks, which at first when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, this is a lot cornier than I remember. But then I'm like, wait, no, this is a great like storytelling apparatus where he has like these powers where he can like see things and going back to places. It's almost like he has like crow sense.
It's like he's reminding himself.
And that does come into effect for the climax of the original where, you know, he's like 31 hours of pain
in the guy, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that's such a cool premise. And this movie does none of that.
There's none of that. And it's the whole, you're trying to invoke this, you know, the premise is it's a guy who comes back from the dead and gets to go and kill and have revenge. So it's a revenge movie. And, you know, it's like in the John Wick movie, if you had 25 minutes with the dog before it gets killed.
Yeah. Or like we had a whole movie with his wife at the start, and then we had a movie with his dog, and then he becomes John Wick.
In the last 20, 30 minutes, and then you have that club scene, and that's the end.
John Wick is kind of, it's a lot more like the original,
yeah,
where we didn't know the wife and we barely knew the dog.
There's an ambiguous nature to it.
That's the best part, because you infer all these things off of his actions.
Yeah, and what James O'Barr was inspired by, sadly, a very sad story in which he lost his girlfriend to an accident. He was inspired by just random acts of cruelty that two regular people are just killed. So like Eric and Shelley in that just kind of represent normality, that they were just a normal young couple with the whole life ahead of them. It's cut down by cruelty. He's brought back a year later to kill them, and it's the whole interesting angle of Shelley isn't a character in that, but she represents love and the life that was, and a viewer can watch it and go, God, imagine if my significant other was perished and I got to come back in this. And it's meant to just be about the power fantasy. And I'd also say, like, I don't watch John Wick for the plot. I watch it for Keanu Reeves to stylishly headshot people. So when I went into like the new Mortal Kombat movie, I was like, as long as there's some fucking cool fights, I don't need a plot. And that film didn't have cool fights. So this, I was going, well, you know, I love the original Crow, but you know, those fight scenes were left a little bit wanting. If we can have a supernatural John Wick, Deadpool, like
that really is what this combination is.
You know, like it's John Wick, Deadpool, and with like listening to The Cure. Or
what if John Wick was, you know, going through killing people, but he didn't have to worry about getting injured?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Which is, I know the original Crow as well, but I don't know, the original Crow, he starts to like embrace it more, and like he
has fun with it.
He has fun with it. Whereas like they made Bill's Crow, he's supposed to embody vengeance, but I wasn't getting vengeance vibes from him.
No, I was getting nothing. I suppose we should start from the start, which is where the mistake is made, where we open on Shelley and...
No, we don't. We open on Eric as a child trying to save a horse, and then he's like, the one thing I loved. As his mum's like heroin overdosing in a trailer.
It immediately felt like, this horribly cut together film where you can see a better version of this film where these two people came together in a rehab, and because they've come together, they fixed each other. Happy, up like Pixar montage, killed like for no reason whatsoever. Yeah. Like, and that's what I was thinking at first, but then we get this we keep coming back to Shelley, who apparently saw something incredibly bad, and is now, her and her friends are being killed because of that.
It gives me Spawn vibes. The whole reason the misfortune comes upon Eric and Shelley in this movie is because Shelley is almost like a puppet of the devil, or like, you know, the devil.
It's so over. There's too many things added to it.
The devil gives an old guy the power of immortality as long as he sends innocent souls to hell by making them kill for him.
Yes, and this billionaire, 100 years old guy, hyper organized, just didn't notice some guy had a phone out.
Yeah.
And recorded the whole thing.
When you see the thing, he's like walking around him. He's like
tracking it. If this gets out, it'll ruin me. I'm like, mate, like if you've been around for hundreds of years, I'd imagine that maybe you've got your fingers in a lot of pies in terms of control. Speaking
of the DMC game again, like the main villain in that is like a Rupert Murdoch-esque, like controls the media.
The whole world is your bitch.
So we spend the first really 30 to 40 minutes as humans falling in love and building this really bad relationship that isn't based on what the movie wants you to think, which is love. It's based on like quick emotions of like lust and wanting and
like they reference angsty teens at one point. Like, you guys are angsty teens, like you feel like it. Like there's some really bad lines, like if I'm hard to love me harder. Like her tattoos is laugh now, cry later, and
whatever. He's like, what about if it was cry now, cry later?
Yeah, it's kind of what I am. And it's so like melodramatic, emo, cringe. I think Bill Skarsgard is a very capable, talented actor. I mean, when he was cast in the film, I was like, that's a pretty solid choice.
Also, he's
actually.
he's a character actor. That's what he's really famous for. Pennywise, you know, it's like you don't even see Bill there. You see the character that he's playing, and so you think he would be able to channel this.
I think he was maybe not pleased he was in this version of the film, because there's glimpses there where he finally becomes full Crow, where he kind of looks like he's dead in the eyes and he's doing that, and there's glimpses, very brief glimpses of a better version of the film. But you know, the better version of the film already exists. I think what shocked me the most is how long it truly takes for him to become the Crow. And when he becomes the Crow, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, and you said that to me at the start. You were like, I hope you know that we're not going to get the Crow till the third act.
Because that's what I heard straight away from people, was like, he doesn't actually get the kit on till way late. When you watch the original trailer, you're like, oh yeah, he's kind of got the hoodie on, and then he has that Deadpool-esque car sequence, which kind of ends wrongly for him. I suppose I'll briefly touch on things I like, and it's purely just how they present the healing factor. That like he heals, but the scars remain.
It's not clean. It's not like he's a hero. Like, you know, you need your hero to heal back to like their pristine, perfect form, unless it's over a tattoo. Because it would be hard to do a layer of scar and then a layer of tattoo over it.
Exactly.
I think that's why they don't shoot him in the eye, by the way, like the chest.
That's it, because I was like, surely you'd shoot him in the eye, right? Because it's right there. It's weird, because I guess the analogy is it's Jared Leto following on from Heath Ledger.
It really is. And it actually has more similarities than you'd think. You know, one is like this, doing what he does with the hand he was dealt. And then this one is like, this system broke me, you know, like I'm broken by the system, and like this is what it made me and spat me out.
I was surprised at the little change that he talked about in the few interviews he did on the film. Was like, you've woken up a year later with essentially a divine permission to kill people, and you've got a few days to live. Do you go reconnect with people you've just met? Do you keep distance? So the film kind of has this element of like, he's trying to, you know, he's making these human connections, but he doesn't want to in a way. He's trying to improve those in his life. Where with this though, he wakes up after being killed and doesn't actually know he's been killed, or even feels like he has been killed.
Also, there's a lot of like weird, confusing time jumping that happens around.
Particularly in the opening, when Shelley is moved to rehab, meets him, they connect, they found me, and we run back. But in that time, her friend who started this whole mess, he's found and killed and dealt with in what feels like the original evening in which it began. But Shelley would have spent, you'd assume, weeks getting to rehab. It's overthought and really stupid.
I don't know why they felt the need to give these guys a story, whereas you didn't know anything about Brandon's the Crow, but it's like he goes out of his way to better the lives of the people he like also like encounters, like the innocents almost, like Sarah's mum, because he has more than just the powers of regenerating. Like in that movie, it's so great. Like he like makes the drugs like weep from her system, like the morphine, and he's like, give life a second chance.
Which, a fun fact, is why he's wearing tape. Like, you know, there's this inexplainable thing in the film where, in the Brandon Lee film, where he's just wearing tape as the film goes on. Apparently, like, he gives a bit of his energy to the mum, which then means the regeneration factor isn't quite as strong as it was. But they had to cut around that, so it's just this cool aesthetic thing they have in the film.
But also, like, he saves Sarah's life as well, and then when they like interact a bit more, when Sarah interacts with the cop, she's like, we can't be friends because he's dead. Like he knows, he's aware of what's happening, and like, you know, whereas this character, once he becomes the Crow, doesn't really show like an awareness or a self-awareness of himself in the universe.
Well, also that his goal's different. He's trying to save Shelley.
He's trying to save a soul.
Yeah, where in the original one, it's about revenge.
This is like a bad Ghost Rider movie.
Yeah, well, but this is it. It feels like it's bad mid-2000s superhero films. Ghost Rider, Daredevil, Elektra, Catwoman. It looks shot like those bad Sony Marvel films. Has no particular style or look to it. They shot, I forget, somewhere in Europe. So they have this like archaic, but it all just seemed far too clean to me. Like where the original is like this grungy, like it's a pretty emo, angsty premise as is. So you have to kind of lean into it for it to be cool. I love a band called Sleep Token because they just fully lean into the melodrama of their music.
Yeah.
Where with this film, where it's like got a pinky toe in it with like bad dialogue and, you know, tattoos, it just comes across cringy.
You don't feel for any of these characters, especially like you start off seeing Shelley and she's in like this mansion and like they're like partying in it and stuff. And they're in this like dystopian rehab center in the middle of the woods.
When they escape, Shelley has the grand decision of going back to the city that she's escaped from and directly back to the apartment she knows she was being watched from.
Yes.
Because she was being followed. So I had this horrible idea that they were immediately going to appear and then he was going to be killed and then he's fighting for like the love that could have been. So I was really worried for a second that that was what was going to happen because we were saying, geez, this is pretty heavy for like a day or two of knowing each other.
That's why it doesn't feel like love. It feels more like lust.
And she's way more playful. Like she's done all this to get away from it. She knows her friend's dead. Then when she's in the fucking rehab, she's all like playful and flirty with Eric, like sticking her tongue at him during the movie.
But also they had the most trauma. Did you get that in the circle scene? They were the last ones. What did you like about me when you first saw me?
I thought you were brilliantly broken.
I drew your breasts.
Yeah, it's really weird. So after a very long and largely pointless, like...
It's weeks of like partying and doing drugs and getting drunk and
the billionaire guy just simply can't find her. Until it's time to find her, I suppose. And then we go back to your place, which there's a lot of a repeated motif or visual of like people in like sheets, like the opera house, the models in sheets, and then her in sheets when they kiss, then obviously them being killed by. I was like, just it's a repeated visual, which
I didn't catch on to that, but yeah, it makes so much sense. I think it's more like the veil between like life and death, like how it's like.
But then that's so weak. So then they get killed. He wakes up in a limbo where he meets a character who is in the book and was in the original film but was cut out for various reasons, and I'm glad they did, where he's basically the guide that explains everything to Eric. And as the original film proved, it's better off being ambiguous, that if you have someone there going, let me explain to you what happened.
You see, you've been brought back as the spirit of vengeance.
Yeah, it's like, it was really dumb. The set itself was dilapidated train station. So he gets brought back and he's unsure of what's going on and he decides that he's going to go and kill the people who killed you. I'm like, okay, here's the premise. And he's told directly, the crow will guide you. So you know, the guy basically was like, the crow guides you, just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, but then he proceeds to go, who are these people?
And not acknowledge the crow at all.
Yeah, and the whole film.
It just kind of flies around him and he doesn't even like look at it.
And they don't even do the cool visuals that
of like seeing through the crow's eye and then
or
he's
just
like,
having the fucking crow on his shoulder.
That was a cool visual.
Random, like when he's just like hanging on like one of the, you know, fire escapes in the film and the crow's just there on his shoulder. It's so weird that it's called the crow, but yeah.
On his quest for vengeance originally, after he comes back the first time, he dies and then he gets sent back and then he dies again. And he's like, dude, what's happening? And the guy's like, you just don't love her anymore. You saw a video of her killing someone and your heart fleeted for a single moment.
And we know that it's because whatever the dude's name is.
Gilgamesh, let's call him.
Miscast. Like, I really feel like they probably had a different actor because he just seems so oddly... And when the moment I saw him in the trailer, I was like, oh, it's that actor who's cropped up in a few things. He was in Succession for a bit. I think he's in Devil Wears Prada. But he always kind of plays that guy, kind of skeezy. Just meant to be a villain, sadly. But yeah, just minor aside that an immortal person would opt to be 60-something and not be like a 30-year-old.
Especially when I feel like they gave him a power that should have tied into that where he drinks people's blood. So I'm like, oh, maybe that will do something, make him youthful. And it doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. So they have this angle that, yeah, he's a spiritual person. And which the original film alludes to with the big bad. Like,
but did so much better.
Did so much better with it.
It's criminal crime boss who is using the power of the occult to try and just guide his criminal empire and like help him with his like obviously sketchiness and like
there's that great scene where he goes, you know what they have now? Devil Knight greeting cards.
Yeah.
You know, like that, like he's a guy who's conquered his realm basically.
But also he's a weirdo as well. She's my sister. the same father.
Same father. Like,
You can't see the resemblance.
Such an interesting choice that with that film. God, when they open on him in tears, looking, goes, Dad, you know, with the ammo. Dad gave me this on my birthday when I was 5. He says your childhood ends when you know you're gonna die. And then they've got the chick that goes, I think we broke her. And then his sister's like, I love her eyes.
And then there's
it's so dumb, but it's great.
It's like beautiful.
It's because it's such a cool thing to do with the villain, who's like a really organized villain. So he doesn't care until the crow rolls in like the best scene in the film, rolls in just like, I'm going to kill all your main kingpins. And then it becomes, okay. When they kill the crow in the Brandon Lee film, he goes, well, let me give you an impression. Car, bang, fuck, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I remember laughing at that when I was a kid, and I still laugh at it now.
It's such a horrible line that works just really well.
It works so well.
The villain character itself was built up to be like that. But what about the villain in this movie?
I can tell you his name. And it's so weird that the henchmen aren't even colourful. That in the original one you had like the knife throwing guy.
Yeah.
The weird guy.
The one that was on speed.
Yeah.
The one that was like on heroin.
Yeah. I feel like a worm on a big fucking hook.
Wouldn't your mama be proud of you?
They've got this weird flavour to them, all of them.
They're each their own characters, but it's like we have Woman with Bob.
Yeah. Not Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
One-eyed black guy.
Yeah.
And who else? The not Tilda Swinton's henchman.
And the cop. Maybe.
Yeah, the cop. The only scene that's worth watching that will probably have like 5 million hits on YouTube in a few years or whatever.
The opera scene.
The opera scene, which feels like the whole idea of the film.
It started with that on a wall, and then they like
built around it, and then they didn't let that die. It feels like it reminded me of like, you know, the crazy 88 in Kill Bill. This felt like the bearded 88, where all the henchmen felt like the same actor.
Yeah.
Just the same beard, same hair, and just getting killed.
And we're like, this guy has a sword. We better fight him at close range with our handguns.
Brandon obviously brought some of his martial arts aspect to it. And I think in the city of whatever, this next sequel, which got fucking ruined by Harvey Weinstein.
Not again, Harvey.
They wanted it to be more of a... not martial arts like Brandon, but more rough and tumble. And in here, there's moments where that he isn't an expert fighter, but purely because he's a immortal
he can just
being.
fight with no like regards.
Yeah. And so there's bits where it felt like a dark Jackie Chan film where like Jackie went with the whole practical comedy, where there's a bit where he's got the sword in him and he gets kicked back, falling into another guy with the sword. I was like, okay, there's like little moments where we could have done something here.
Yeah. It's whiteboard moments.
Yeah.
Someone thinks of it.
Will be cool when...
Let's put this in there. Let's put this in there. Let's put this in there.
But like, it's not impossible. Like in the John Wick film, it's billed as this guy is the ultimate killer, the killer of killers. But you can still have moments where he's on the back foot and it's still awesome to see him like kill others. I mean, the dumbest bit is when he goes back because he doesn't love her. He makes another deal going, we'll switch places. I'll go to hell if I save her. Because it's this vague notion of not simply, hey, it's a revenge story where you get to kill the people who killed you. It's we've got to bring the balance back to heaven and hell is what's vaguely allured to.
That's where it feels like Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
It's like,
made the deal with the devil.
I got a contract for her soul.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
But I was expecting him to be like, to go down the Ghost Rider route and be like, I will work for you hunting down these things.
I could enjoy this film if the fight scenes were just great. And so it was this point they didn't even nail that. And it just felt like we were making this film because, well, someone has to, right? Like there was no vision here. There was no story that needed to be told.
I feel like if they were going to change it a bit and make it maybe more just like this weird modern druggo Crow that like they kind of went with, like I guess he was a druggo before he became the Crow, but we just don't see him on drugs.
Well, it's meant to be he was rehabbed. Oh, but then they have the
then they go and like their whole love story, they're on drugs the whole time. They should have like tried to draw a bit of similarities there where when he's killing, he's like almost like he looks like he's high, like he's getting a high off of this vengeance that he's getting, but then like she like, you know, brings him back. The purity of her brings him back maybe.
He kind of upgrades, it seems. So like after he gets brought back again, because he makes the deal of like, I'll take her place.
He gets full Crow powers.
He's accepted that this is what he is, where before he was hesitant to kill or because from his perspective, it's like he hasn't died. It's like he just wakes up and he's ready to go. But then there's a bit where he jumps in the water and reappears back in limbo. So it's like, oh, so is there a bit where he can be fully killed and has to reboot. I don't know. They did it for the fuck of it, I guess. Instead of having that guy be in the real world with him explaining stuff, it's just in the limbo. But anyway, he comes back and decides to actually fully like crow up. I mean, in the book, he just has a mask on, like it's like just a Harlequin mask. And in the film, the original film, they reference it because the mask is there, and then it's alluded to just being a silly story how he's scared of that one time.
Yeah.
In this, I thought, well, if she's an ex-performer, surely the reason is maybe, and FKA Twigs is a bit of a avant-garde performer herself. It probably isn't too out there that maybe part of her act was she wore the face paint.
Even just have like your devil character put his musicians like in a mask, like, you know, so that they're like a faceless kind of like.
So then he wants to bring that and haunt them with it.
Yeah.
So then him doing that makes no sense. Like that's what you think. Like, if you're going down the angle of he's going to be in his own clothes, which is so dumb. We're going to have a Crow film where he's not going to be dressed as the Crow. Where I mean, what's the point of this?
How corny is it when he puts the leather coat on for the first time? Or like you
he's
kind of just see it on a
Batman.
chair.
He's not Superman.
But it feels a lot like Man of Steel, like him going on the ship and like finding the suit just sitting there. Like I'm like, oh no. I'm like, they're calling to it, and like it's like Chekhov's coat. He's gonna come back to the coat in the third act and put it on. In
Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, there's a flashback of him as a kid with the cape on doing that. Mm-hmm. And someone asked Zack, like, well, who's he emulating? Because he's Superman.
Yeah.
And Zack went, I shut up about it, like, just because it doesn't make any sense, like, but the film just ends, like,
but it wraps up really quickly. It's like there's like the big opera scene climax concerto,
which feels like we were saying, oh, this feels like we're finally out of Act 1. The film just feels perpetually trapped in Act 1.
It should have started with that scene.
Exactly, like this feels like an opening scene in a better film.
But then it's like, okay, opera's done. He takes the DeLorean Ferrari.
Drives to the guy's house.
He just drives straight to the guy's house.
Walks in. Like, there's no, like, the guy hasn't set up any last-minute guards.
He's just brushing his old hair.
I have to imagine they must have cut something away. Yeah. There's no way they originally had it be he rocks up to villain's house. And then it's just the villain makes a last-ditch effort to try and incorporate his crow powers into him. Fails immediately.
But then he's like, no, my love is stronger than your hate. And then he fights him in the astral world.
And then he goes, you have no idea what hell you're going to. I do.
And then it's just like hands just pull him down to hell CG and fish. Hands. And I'm like, wow, they really were like, we need to wrap this up so quick, guys.
Yeah, so we spend so long trapped in the first act that even the second act feels like the first act.
I'd gladly take away most of the rehab, 98% of the rehab stuff, him getting yelled at.
I think if you're going to remake The Crow, and most people know The Crow as the 94 film, just fucking remake it, eh? Just go, look, like, it's a pretty simple formula. But instead they go, no, let's add shit to it. The Crow isn't a character with a villain's rogues gallery.
Yeah.
It's not a comic book like that. It's something that a guy who was in a lot of pain wrote. Like Drew.
Well, it's like the Crow has a human side. And that's what the original movie, and I looked back and I looked at this scene and I'm like, fuck, it does so good. Because at the end of this scene, he's like, what are you going to do, disappear on me again? And he's like, I was thinking of just using your front door. It's like, fuck, he remembers who he is.
But he's slowly becoming himself again, because at first he's like barely himself.
The Crow character itself, there's so little of an actual character there that he doesn't show any like type of evolution as a character.
No, he's such a non-character the whole film. Like there's not really anything. He comes back to life. It seems hesitant to kill people, even though it's meant to be
vengeance.
You woke up a year later, you're told you get to kill everyone, and in 3 days you're going to be dead anyway. So it's like a biblical permission. And as Brandon Lee said, he goes, I think I would do this if this was the situation. And if someone killed my wife and my dog.
Well, that's what it is. The original movie is so... it's so horrible, the world and the incidents surrounding, like, you know, the Shelley's murder and his
from the
murder.
ground up. It's all there, and I think that's another thing. It's that I can't even say the visuals of this film are like are a great like saver. Oh, it's shot so well and the action scenes are great. It's not. There's no visual language. There's some crazy like costume choices where he's just wearing the fucking. He's rocking the Gucci mink.
He is.
You know, like at one point, and it's so like, why the fuck's he wearing a pink fluffy coat? Like there doesn't seem to be any consideration into like the styling of the film at all.
Yeah.
And even his apartment all that stuff. Yeah, and the city itself just seems way too clean. Like, I mean, I'm not saying we have to have it be just like The Crow, but their choice was no style. There was nothing there.
The world was like another character in the original.
Yeah, it was another character, and a comparison would be the recent Batman film, like where they just floods with character. And like, I mean, some people will, somewhat generously, but they will compare the original Crow to like Blade Runner or Tim Burton's Batman, like 89, where the city feels like a character of itself, and it all kind of adds in, and that like grungy 90s like rock stuff that exists
and
in
there's
that
no
film.
reason why they couldn't do it in this one.
Yeah, there's bits where they've got like happy guitar, like Smith-esque music in the happy bits. And I was like, oh, this would be cool if when he's the Crow, it's like harder guitar music, like real basic film school stuff that they don't even do.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that this is our first crossover. It's discussing such a wet blanket of a film. And I went in vaguely hopeful despite knowing it was going to be bad.
I originally heard like horrible things, worse than Borderlands. I will put this a little bit above Borderlands. Dan was showing me some reviews that people were giving this like 10 out of 10. So like, if you were a Crow fan, this is for you.
No, definitely not. Someone's always bound to enjoy a film. Like, but there's nothing about this film. I feel like someone's going to sit down and go, yeah, man, like, this film offers me something that like other ones don't. If someone says I'm going to watch The Crow, we still know you're talking about the Brandon Lee one.
Yeah. Look, if you liked this movie, be honest and tell us in the comments what you liked about the movie.
Because I think other films cover its base. You can watch Deadpool for superhero action, you watch John Wick for stylized action, and you watch the original Crow for like actual like style, like grunge and
the character, Also, I have to mention it. Bill Skarsgard's sad, angsty, angry boy impression is just Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, it
He's
is.
like, I hate them.
Yeah, it is. It's
I'm gonna kill them. Every single one of them.
I think it was just like, be angsty and angry. And he's like, I know an actor who was once angsty and angry and people love him now.
They made every wrong decision possible when it came to this film. And FK Twigs, while the incredibly talented musician, and obviously was not given the greatest material in the world, I think she limped through this a bit. But then Bill Skarsgård also was not in his finest form here either, I felt.
The one thing that did pique my interest, and I'm sure every other male who watched this movie, is there's a nipple in this scene.
Like, God, constant nipples.
Let us know if you like Marko and Steven better.